I just spent 5 days in the hospital with a possible cancer prognosis.
Why is it always fucking something?
Not entirely ideal, but we're back in the garage working on this, which also appears to have some form of cancer. How fitting. Off camera, we took and put new terminal leads on. We also did a fuel pump switch. We've got a fuel pump running to that Edelbrock 1406, I think is what it is. Figured out our distributor hold down bolt is gone. And we've also got fuel running from our little makeshift fender, not necessarily mounted fuel pump to the can. If we're lucky, it'll start. And maybe idle. Every time. So, now that we've resolved that, it was the neighbor throwing stuff. It sounded like somebody busted a window out, but all the windows are still here. Anyway, we're going to try to see if we can get this thing to idle. And even if we can't, we've kind of got to close the book on this project to get to one that's a little bit more pressing. So this is probably we're probably going to push everything into this last video, getting this thing most of the way done. There's things that we can't do, which is unfortunate. We can't do the brakes because I don't have the brakes. Dims to brakes. And I also don't have a couple of other odds and ends parts and pieces that I need for this thing to run, like freaking tires. But we kind of got to get this out of here so that we can work on the Subaru, because that's a little bit more pressing. This thing was always going to get sold, but the Subaru is something that's staying here forever and is actually going to be used as somebody's daily driver, on top of being used for the Rust Belt Ramble and various other events. Kind of got to prioritize at some point, and no better time than, when you got a PET scan next week to determine if you've got throat cancer. So let's try to dive into this the best we can. We'll make it work as good as possible, and then we're going to try to assemble it. Unfortunately, Megan can't be here today because she's got to work, but she'll be back around. Things have been, like, for you guys, I think this has only been like a video or maybe two where she's not been around, but for us, it's been like almost a month and a half. Luckily, she was nice enough to come and spend some time with me while I was in the hospital, and we got to hang out and stuff there. Bummer situation is what it is. We're gonna get past it somehow. One of the things that I kind of want to try to get established today is whether or not the fuel lines that are original to the car, these guys right here, if they're actually still plumbed back to a fuel pump, and if that fuel pump works. If they are plumbed correctly and the fuel pump's just dead, I can wire this in directly to the same set of wiring that it would have used anyway, and if that doesn't work, I'll run wiring all the way back. Shouldn't be an issue. But this will go underneath of the car, a couple self-tappers. It's good enough for the people who would want a car like this. So that'll be done. But if they're not plumbed correctly and nothing is where it's supposed to be, that's also okay, because I'm just going to send the car with the fuel pump, and maybe if I can find one, a really cheap gas can, and God be with you, because I sure won't be. So let's start to get some shit established, just for clarity, because I know how this kind of stuff works. This is going to be over several days. This isn't going to be a quick process, but I'm going to try to button this thing up and make this like the last video for this car, so that we can push forward onto other projects. I don't know about y'all, but I'm kind of tired of looking at this thing. So let's get on it. Let's get this thing done. Alright, so we had to kind of redo a little bit of the wiring here. You can't tell that my dad's an electrician by the way that I do wiring, but please don't let my mistakes discern how you would view him. He's made plenty of his own. I'm right here. So we're gonna try to see if we can get this to start. I've made a adjustment so that the choke is closed. With any luck, that'll help. It's 40 degrees outside right now because Ohio can't make its fucking mind up about what season it is. Eventually, I'd like to wire that choke in, but I don't know if we're gonna have time. So let's see what we can do. You would turn the key, please. Okay. Let's try it again. It's dragging the starter. Like it's not disengaging the starter when it's attempting to start. So let me try something real quick. Hop out of there. Give it a spray of that brake cleaner. Well, that's the longest that's ever ran. We're blowing fuel out of the carburetor. That's a fucking issue. Oh, man. All right. That's a problem we're gonna have to work on. We're losing fuel up here. It's leaking up here. I could see it spraying out. We're also losing water back here from somewhere. That's the longest this thing's actually ran. And it didn't sound bad. Deafening, yeah, but it didn't sound bad. Okay, we're on the right track, I think. The big thing is I think that we're just pushing too much fuel pressure. Because it dumped a bunch of fuel down into the intake valley. So we'll have to deal with that. It was pouring water. It looked like out of the coolant jacket. Maybe from the firewall. If that's the case, that might just be something that we can bypass. Maybe. Yeah, there's no reason we can't bypass that. I don't hear it dumping anything on the ground. So I mean, that's pretty cool. Idle was exceptionally high. You know what the idle's supposed to be for this thing?
1200.
Like 1200? Okay. So we'll make some minor adjustments and see if she'll start again. That's on the ground now. That was what fuel was in it. Well, this thing will kind of run. It was idling at about 2,000 RPM when it came back down. It's not like searching for idle, it's actually kind of found where it needs to be. I don't think we really need to adjust the timing any, because it sounded good. I think now we got to find a way to deal with the fuel overflow and the overpressure, because I think that pump is rated, it's probably rated for maybe 10 PSI, I'm not sure, it might say it on it, and it's just pushing too much fuel. If we can get that under control, this thing will really take off, and it might run. I guess the next step is to establish whether or not the old tank is destroyed, and if it'll hold fluid, not necessarily fuel, but fluid. Figure out if the fuel pump is still there and if it works, and if not, work out a system for wiring a fuel pump all the way to the back. I don't know. I sat up last night and actually thought about this a lot. Like this particular project a lot, and was like, you know, I bet the mixture screws are wrong, and I bet this and this and this, and I went down through the checklist, and I'll be damned, it runs. How about that? All right, well, let's get some more shit done. Today's the fucking day. We're getting this thing out of the garage because I'm really tired of looking at it, and because, to be quite honest, I've done what I can. But there's just too much wrong with it for me to completely restore it. So now, we're gonna get this thing running and park it on the driveway so that I don't have to look at it anymore. All right? So let's get this shit done. So here's what we're gonna do. Because we can't fix the brakes, because the parts got delayed, which is incredibly annoying, is what it is, can't do anything about it. This has got to get out of here so we can work on our Rust Belt Ramble car, because that's coming up real fast and we're not 100% sure what's wrong with it. And before I hear anything from any bleeding heart rotary head that's decided that his triangle is better than mine, let me establish something for you. I am not the only person that works on this team. You've also got Megan, and you've also got our camera guy, Saru. Ultimately, with some of the pending medical stuff I got going on, I'm not sure I'll be around to finish this. That's always a possibility. And if that's the case, then this isn't going to work, because none of them are going to know what to do. That's not their fault. Sometimes you just don't have the opportunity to learn the things you need to learn, and you don't have the ability to go and get what you need to learn it. So the best thing for this car, the only way I can really give this thing justice, is to pass it off to somebody else who is going to have the time, the money, the patience, and the mental fortitude in order to combat all this stuff and try to de-hillbillyify it. Or maybe they're just going to yank the rotary out and drop a 427 in it. I don't know. I don't care. It's not my car anymore. But what I will tell you is that this is not the car to try to teach people how to work on cars on. This thing has been such a mess, top to bottom. And I've got people here who are counting on me to teach them this stuff. And while I plan to be around for a long time to do it, just in case, I'd rather have something that I can actively teach them things on. I don't know enough about this to teach them anything. I don't know enough about a lot of things to teach people something, but what I can tell you is that this thing, it runs awesome. We've heard it run, and we know it'll drive. The best thing that I can do is put it out there and hope somebody buys it. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people saying that I'm quitting the project early, but you know, my goal was just to get the thing running and driving. I've beat that. What I can't do is get it to stop because my brake parts got canceled. You know, I don't have the parts. They're not going to get here in a timely fashion. They've been canceled twice, so I said, somebody else's problem. We got a tire coming for it, which is awesome because then it'll have all the original alloys back on it, even though they're painted white. I don't know if they were painted white from factory or not. If they were, it's kind of weird. Why would you want to paint your wheels? I don't know. Anyway, so the goal is just to get this thing to fire up, to move, to go back to the front so that we can move our car for the Rust Belt Ramble in. Because while that is also a car with an unusual engine, we know that it runs and drives. It's just got other stuff going on that we will have to explain because I'm not even sure what happened to it, but at least it runs. So that's something. Most importantly, I want to make absolutely sure that this thing is safe-ish for whoever decides to grab it, right? So we've got a temporary fuel system established, and it does work. It's got a fuel on, fuel off switch inside of the dash. So that's good. That's wired up. That works. The best thing that we can do is just send it on. You know, there's nothing else that I can really do about it, and to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of running through here like a chipmunk with its fucking cheeks full. I'm trying to stuff more shit in there, but believe me, like your mom, I just can't get it to fit. So let's get this thing out of here. Alright. I think the problem was my jack was upside down. Well, now we're kind of lined up for the exit. We did do that. Just like move like a hair this way, maybe. Just a little. That's enough. We're good. We're good. That's as far as it's gonna be on. All right. Everything that goes with this car is inside of it, with the exception of one seat that we're going to walk over, because I didn't want to set my fuel tank on top of a seat. So, now comes the fun part. Let's see if it'll make it around the neighborhood to the house. Since we couldn't, you know, put in an alley right here so that I could drive things direct to it. Oh no, that'd be too fucking easy. Well, that took a lot of starting and stopping. We made it. That's something. You know, it hadn't really occurred to me that the exhaust is missing, like right after the manifold. That could be part of the problem. But it made it to right here. Which is honestly, like, it used up all our fuel in our makeshift fuel system. It wouldn't suck it from the big container, so we had to put it on a bottle. And then that wasn't good enough for it. But hey, it's all the way up here. It's at the front of the house. We're going to put the hood on it. throw the seats in it. The cops are probably going to come because we were very, very loud. And this thing takes off. Was it just me, or did this thing just take off sideways? Like right out of the gate. Like, that was at idle. There wasn't any acceleration added. And the idle screw was all the way out until a few minutes ago when I pushed it all the way to try to create a little bit higher idle. It just couldn't do it. It couldn't handle it. And it was fuel starving. So, I don't know. It does run though. That's a plus. So I can write it down as runs. And it's not a lie. It does run. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for this car. I don't even know what to say. Like this didn't go the way I was expecting, but nothing has, so I guess I should be accepting of the way that things are. It seems a little too Buddhist for me. You know. But then again, if I get a hot dog, I get one with everything.